Today's episode of One Shining Podcast is brought to you by Hotel Tonight. Here is a little insider travel secret from our friends at Hotel Tonight. There are tons of empty hotel rooms out there just waiting to be booked. That's how Hotel Tonight scores such incredible deals. They team up with awesome hotels to help them sell these rooms and pass those savings along to you. Not like last resort places, they work with cool top-rated hotels where you actually want to stay. And even though their name's Hotel Tonight, you can actually book up to 100 days in advance in top destinations and up to a week in advance everywhere else. So if you want to start scoring amazing deals at incredible hotels, download the Hotel Tonight app now.
Gents, there's a revolutionary new detergent on the market that is designed just for you. It's called Frey, and it was created to both smell better and treat your clothing better than regular detergents. In the words of one of their customers, Frey smells like a GQ magazine kidnapped Liam Neeson's daughter to make him smell like Randy Savage was coming to kick their ass. So it smells awesome. That's, we need one of those customers to write a review for our pod. That's a very detailed review there. Go to livefrey, Frey.com, and use the code SHINING25 for 25% off your first purchase. That's livefrey, Frey.com, and use the code SHINING25 for 25% off Frey detergents.
He takes the timeout. Technical foul. Timeout. Technical foul. Technical foul.
It is about 12:21 on Tuesday, January 23rd, and I'm giving the timestamp because tonight, Tate, Kansas and Oklahoma are playing each other. Clemson, I think, is playing Virginia. So the people that are listening wondering, why are you not talking about Trae Young? That's all anyone wants to talk about. Why are you not talking about Trae Young playing Kansas? The answer is we have not watched the game yet. We're going to talk about that on Friday. What we are going to talk about today, Tate, is I think the only story worth talking about with you and I. We're just going to dive right into good guy, bad guy. Usually we start with good guys, but let's start with the bad guys. Go ahead. Let's just get it going right now. Go ahead. I'll let you go first, and let's talk about what I know you want to talk about.
We know what it is, and that is the I call it the miseducation of Zion Williamson, and it started on January 20th.
Give the whole backstory. Give the people that are just tuning in the whole story on what is happening with who is this man Zion Williamson? Why is this news? Why am I making a big deal about it that we should start our show with this?
Exactly.
Give the story, Tate.
Zion Williamson, the number 3 player in the country, at one time ranked the number 1 player in the country. We're in a time and an age where, we deal with, the mixtapes and the hype around recruits. We've seen it happen with a lot of guys, but Zion Williamson has been a different animal. He's been covered since he was 16. He has been compared to LeBron James. He's been on Slam covers. We've heard about everything about this kid pretty much since he really hit the scene. He's been followed by Drake. He's been rapped about. He's been talked about. He's been covered, like nothing we've really seen before in the past 5 to 10 years, honestly. And that brings us to the point where, everyone was concerned and wondering where this kid would take his career in college. If he would go to college, he narrows it down to 5 schools. So he's from Spartanburg, South Carolina. He's a Jam Nation, Adidas family guy. Obviously, we all remember the FBI story with Adidas. So that kind of opened his recruitment back up. And that led us to 5 schools that were in the mix. And the 5 schools that everyone had pegged, number 1 was Clemson. He's from South Carolina. A lot of people thought he was going to go to Clemson and stay in state. Number 2 was Duke. Probably a sleeper or a dark horse at best, but they were on the list, and a lot of people had kind of written him off leading into the recruitment. North Carolina, a school that he went and took an official visit to in the fall. He was promised the number 12, Phil Ford's number, a retired number, something that had never happened at the University of North Carolina. He was also considering Kentucky, the school that is known for the one and done in this era. John Calipari has famously said that, he is here to get these kids, his guys, to the NBA. And then finally, Frank Martin and the defense of South Carolina. And my favorite thing about the whole thing, a lot of these schools made their final pitches in the week. And my favorite Frank Martin pitch, which was put out there by Alex English, a great NBA and ABA player, played with the Denver Nuggets back in the day, a guy from South Carolina. He said, if Zion Williamson wants to learn how to play NBA defense, he should go to South Carolina, which I say to that, who plays defense in the NBA?
Mm-hmm.
So that leads all to that all leads to the final day, and that is January 20th, 8 p.m. on ESPN. Mark Titus, were you watching?
I was not watching because you had led me to believe that I was like 75% sure he was going to Clemson. As I've said on this podcast many times, but for those who are just tuning in, I don't really follow recruiting. The only recruits I follow are guys that like I think are going to go basically to Indiana or Ohio State, and even then I don't really follow them. I just kind of
celebrate when it happens.
Just celebrate when it happens. So listening to Tate's just brainwashing me, just like all the propaganda you're throwing in my face, talking about Phil Ford letting Zion Williamson wear number 12 as though like that matters whatsoever, as though anybody cares about any of that. I was led to believe it was down to Carolina or Clemson, and I was like, man, this is going to be interesting. I even said on this pod, Tate, that I saw. Did I not say to you that he's going to go to Duke? And then you were like, no, that's never happened.
And that leads us to Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, leading into the Florida game at Kentucky in Rupp Arena. So everyone at Kentucky,
you sound so somber right now. By the way, you're like reporting this as though it's like a national tragedy. You're like Friday, it's Saturday at 8 p.m.
I'm doing my Walter Cronkite impersonation, which I
families all across this country laid their heads to rest. One of the great travesties of our time took place.
It really was. And it really was because of everything that was at play. And I'll say this. So it all starts. We're all live on SportsCenter. We cut to Zion Williamson. He's there sitting next to his stepdad, his mom, his little brother's there. And, you know, he starts out his speech. And what's he talking about, Mark Titus? Everything that I like to hear when it comes to being a North Carolina fan, which is family. He's like, it comes down to family values, everything that, you know, I represent and what I want my family to represent. I want to be a part of something. I want to bring my family along. As I'm hearing these things, I will tell you right now, I'm watching this with my two roommates who both went to North Carolina. We are ecstatic. This is everything you want to hear. Roy Williams had the last official visit with the kid. We're pumped. We're like, this is leading to North Carolina. I can't wait to see that Carolina blue hat get pulled up. And then, of course, he says, and I've decided that I will be attending the Brotherhood. And I fell out of my chair because I'm just shocked. I'm like, the Brotherhood. First of all, that was created at least 4 years ago as a hashtag, but now has become some, you know, ideal that everyone believes is a true reality with Duke basketball because, you know, they're such a brotherhood. They really take care of each other. Let's ask Grant Hill the last time he talked to his national championship team. I'll wait. But anyways, it comes up, the Brotherhood. He announces, he pulls out the blue hat, he puts on the Duke cap, and people just go ballistic. This kid was probably one of the most likable players in the country just for the fact that he had the awe-inspiring dunks. Everyone seemed to like him. He's a real humble guy. He's been around, but whenever you see him in interviews, he's just super humble, super nice kid. And when he says Duke, he automatically becomes a pariah, somewhat of an enemy, and now he's joined this ridiculous recruiting class that Duke has together, which has the number 1 recruit in the country, RJ Barrett, the number 2 recruit in the country, Cam Reddish, and now the number 3 recruit in the country, Zion Williamson. And boy, does it hurt me to say that, Mark Titus.
Since I've come back home from LA after being in LA for a couple months and I've been back home, this was the very first time that I wish I was back in LA. This is the first time I found myself wishing I was there, only just so I could record you as this announcement was taking place. I had to see it. It hurts so badly that I was not there. Like, I imagine you were we were just making fun of the Cliff Alexander, Illinois people. And I in my head, you were so much worse. I don't even know where to start with this. I guess I want to start here, Tate. How has Mike, and I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts on this, how has Mike Krzyzewski brainwashed the entire country to the extent that people hate Duke? This is the weirdest phenomenon to me in the world. Everybody in the country hates Duke. If you're not a Duke fan, you hate Duke. No one is like, okay, Duke, yeah, cool. They're whatever. Everybody, either you're a Duke fan or you absolutely hate them. So most of this country, most of the college basketball fans absolutely hate Duke, want them to burn to the ground, et cetera, et cetera. And yet we have a situation where anytime any other school does great on the recruiting trail, everybody starts making accusations of them paying players and dropping bags. And these are two things that exist in our sport, is that everybody hates Duke, everybody accuses everybody of paying players. Those are two things that always happen. Somehow, it blows my damn mind. I have no idea how this is happening. Nobody accuses K of paying players. It just like he's somehow like brainwashed everybody into saying he's like a leader of men. We do things the right way here. I would never do such a thing, etc. And like, even when you go on the internet, like I was on like, I think Reddit or something, and they posted the announcement like Zion Williamson going to Duke, and everyone in there is like, shit, I hate Duke. How do they keep doing this? This is crazy. And it's like, if John Calipari farted at a guy who is like a top 100 recruit, you like this, the 74th ranked recruit in the country, if John Calipari pointed his asshole towards him and farted, like everybody would be like, he's paying him. He's paying. That's exactly what's happened. He's paying. Which, by the way, Cal probably deserves that reputation. But like, how has K reached the point where he just? How is this happening, Tate? And I don't understand it.
This is how it's happening, and that's our bad guy of the week, and that is Jeff Capel. And this is the whole premise of the situation, because I think the problem with what you're talking about is the reason that Coach K, Duke, these guys aren't tagged as, paying the price tag for, maybe dropping the bag for these kids is because that is not what Duke has ever represented. All Duke
ever.
When you've ever thought about Duke, what have you always thought about? You've thought about guys that are not as athletically gifted or talented, maybe as skilled, but not athletically gifted or talented, that try so hard and slap the floor so hard that they somehow get wins. And then they also heat up, Cameron Indoor to 110 degrees like they're playing in hell. But that's what they do to win. That is just the facts that's facts of life. That's what Duke basketball has always been about. The thing that's changed now is that they are playing a futures game, which is why Jeff Capel is so important. Because you know what, Mark Titus? As much as I don't, I do get a little bit of satisfaction out of it, Coach K is not going to last forever. He is not immortal, despite all reports saying he is, especially his hairdo. He is not immortal, and there is going to be an end date. There is an expiration date on Coach K's version of Duke basketball.
Is that a threat? Is that a threat?
No, this is a declaration for why all this is happening, and it's to set a precedent for the future, Mark Titus. And here's where it all comes in. If Coach K were to continue what he built at Duke, which is I'm going to take a player that is not as talented, I'm going to take a Lee Melchione, I'm going to take an Emil Jefferson, I'm going to take a Brian Zubek, I'm going to take a Greg Paulus, I'm going to take a Daniel Ewing, the list goes on, and make them a 3 to 4 year starter that gets in people's bleep that out, Kyle, and wins games and wins titles. And now he's playing the one and done game. And that is not his game. It's Jeff Capel's game. But you know who's going to be the head coach in the future? Jeff Capel. And you know what Duke needs? Precedent. Because if they get the top 3 guys now, when K's there, when Capel gets the top 3 guys in 2022 or 2023, it seems like it's standard protocol. It seems like it's always been happening. It gets in your head. You're like, oh, that's just what Duke does. This is not what Duke has ever done. But they've played it perfectly. They've dealt the card out to every single person, starting with Kyrie Irving back in the day and leading all the way up to now to Zion Williamson. They have played their hand perfectly. Jeff Capel, bad guy of the week. I can't believe this is happening.
The audacity of this to happen, of Duke to take the top 3 guys in the country who all play the same position, and on the heels of the FBI thing. So the current climate of college basketball is this. We have long for years and years and years all known that coaches are out there dropping bags. We knew that this was a thing. It was like rumors talked about. You get anybody that spent like more than 5 minutes inside a college basketball locker room. You get any 2 people together. They're like, yeah, of course, guys pay players. Like that's how it kind of works. These were always the rumors. Then the FBI thing hits, and it like there are rumors no more. It's like proof. The federal government is in on this. It's a widespread thing. They're throwing out threats. The guy in the FBI at the press conference is like, we know your game plan. We're coming for you. Every other coach, you should be scared. This is the current climate. Is like, we know for a fact that coaches all over this country are paying players. And Brian Bowen gives us a price point to start at $100,000, who's not even, what was he like, 15th or something best recruit?
Yeah, he's like mid-level. He's like the mid-level player that you pay. He's not even the high end.
So that's the price point we have as a starting point. You can theoretically say, I mean, again, we could do rumors, and like as for me, I personally believe guys are getting paid more than $100,000. I think Brian Bowen was that was probably his price. I'm guessing better guys are getting more money, but that's speculation. We'll go with what we know, Tate. Guys are getting $100,000 to play at these schools, right? And somehow we have created a situation where America, the general public, as a consensus thought, knows that guys are getting paid $100,000, knows that Zion Williamson and Cam Reddish and RJ Barrett were getting recruited. They were getting offered money by places. I don't know if they took it. I'm not going to say I know anything about that. I guarantee you that coaches were calling them saying, we can hook you up with XYZ. We will give you cash. We'll give your family a house. We'll give you cars. Whether they took it, I don't know. But we know that these things are going on. And yet, America has been led to believe that Coach K goes into these living rooms, sits down with the families, and says, listen, I know you have lucrative offers on the table. I know that you could go to Arizona. Sorry, Arizona fans, I'm picking you because you're the best example. You're implicated in the probe or whatever. I know that you could go to Arizona and get $200,000 in a Lexus. I know you could be Billy Preston driving his Lexus at Kansas and crashing his car. I know that all these are things, but here's what I'm going to offer you. I'm going to offer you the opportunity to play for a 70-year-old who takes a leave of absence every year because my body's falling apart, and an opportunity to join the Duke Brotherhood and then go to the NBA and be known as the greatest Duke NBA player of all time because every single guy sent to the NBA sucks ass. And I think you will find that my offer is better than like an amount of money that would change your entire family's lives. And all these kids, and each one of these kids are saying, yeah, actually, I'm with you, coach. I think that's what I want out of my life. This isn't happening, Tate. This cannot possibly be happening.
The pitch that Coach K and Duke that they put out to the world. I mean, we remember Diallo when Hammy Diallo was in between Duke and Kentucky. He said, and Cal got very upset about this, that Duke promised a lifetime, right? A lifetime support. So you're always going to be supported by I call them the Duke Mafia, but you're always going to be supported by Duke, whatever you do in life. If you end up being an engineer, they're going to be Duke people in the field that will take care of you, yada, yada, yada. The other thing that K does, and I think is very underrated in this whole situation, is he has this game that he plays. So let's say Coach K goes into Zion's house, what's the first thing he's going to ask Zion? Who's your favorite NBA player? Zion's going to say, well, I mean, I really model my game after LeBron James. He's going to go, you know what? Let me text LeBron right now. He'll pull out his phone. He'll text what it says in his phone, contact LeBron James. It's probably a manager on the Duke team, but we don't know. We can't confirm that. So he texts LeBron James and says, I'm here with Zion Williamson. He's a great young player. We'd love to see him at Duke. And, LeBron will text back and say, love you, Coach K. You're the greatest thing that's ever happened in my life. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't even love the game of basketball. You should tell Zion to go to Duke because that's what basketball means to me and it means to you, and I love you to death. And then Zion will read that and go, oh my God, LeBron James wishes he was at Duke right now and not playing in the NBA. I should go there. That's the way that they sell it. Like Coach K's connections to all these NBA superstars. It's just, mind-boggling to all these recruits. And they're like, I just got to go play for this guy. When in reality, Zion Williamson is already a star. He knows Drake and all these people. Like, that's not what's selling him on this program. And that's like the farce that's out there to the world, that Coach K's NBA connections is what's getting all these kids so amped up. And they're like, oh my God, I could one day be like LeBron James, who thinks that I could be like him because Coach K texted him. That's not what's happening.
This is but America buys into that. It's unbelievable. I don't understand it. Coach K is without question the greatest coach alive. I think it's without question he's the greatest coach of all time in college basketball. All of these things are true. He has an undeniable brand. Duke should be recruiting very, very well every year. These aren't the complaints. I don't begrudge Coach K for using whatever influence he has. Honestly, it doesn't even bother me that Duke does well recruiting, because I know a lot of people are like, probably doing the jerk off motion listening to us, like, Duke haters, here we go again. You guys hating on Duke. You hate on Duke because you're a Carolina fan, and you should hate on Duke. I honestly don't care. I actually like when Duke does this because it makes my job a lot easier. I know that next year now I'm going to have a Duke team that's going to have their three best players are all going to be playing the same position, and they're going to be trying to figure things out, and they're going to get upset losses, and it's going to be an absolute blast to cover them. I'm actually excited for this. I just can't believe. And especially like when you think about like Duke doesn't actually win national championships. They've won one national championship playing the one and done game. So it's not like
guess who won that championship for them? Quinn Cook and Emil Jefferson.
Right. And Grayson Allen.
Yeah.
But and Titus Jones, I guess. But And Justice Winslow and
whatever.
Angelo. But the point is, like, everyone gets whipped into a frenzy thinking that, like, I guess I am probably being a Duke hater right now, but it's not like they're Alabama football and they're winning every national title, and I'm just really upset that my team can't break through. Like, honestly, if I'm jealous of any program in the country, it's Villanova, and they haven't had a one and done guy yet, I don't think. So I'm gonna go ahead and pump the brakes on that one. I'm not coming at this from like I wish Ohio State did what Duke does. Although it would be nice, to have these talented guys on this team. But
it would make
the point is, like,
it would make more sense. Like, Ohio State has actually been in the game. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen Mike Conley, we've seen Greg Oden, we've seen D'Angelo Russell.
Right.
The problem that I have, and it's not even a Duke hate, it's more of it's like a longing for what I've lost. And I say that from a place of love and a place of hate because they're very close to one another. The best thing about the North Carolina-Duke rivalry always was that North Carolina was the program that had the supreme talent, the superior talent on the floor, but Duke had the moxie, the skill,
right,
and the ability to play the game of basketball better than the talented players, to know the game better, to take the charges, to dive for a loose ball, to do all these sort of things.
Just say it.
And they've gone.
Just say it, Tate. They had a lot of white guys,
and they've gone completely away from their identity and everything that K built. The reason that I'm sad is because, you know what? It's hard for me as a North Carolina fan to hate Brandon Ingram. It's hard for me as a North Carolina fan to hate Marvin Bagley. It's hard for me as a North Carolina fan to hate Jahlil Okafor.
That's interesting.
Because they are these are great talents, supreme talents that I cannot believe that are now going to Duke. It just makes no sense. It doesn't fit. It would be like if Butler was getting Romeo Langford. It just doesn't fit the protocol.
This is interesting that you're bringing this up. So you're saying that you don't hate Duke as much as you used to.
No, not at all.
Despite them, interesting. Because to me, this sort of stuff makes me hate Duke more because, and I think we're both coming from the same point. We're just arriving at different conclusions. I hate them more because I think they pretend, like K's whole mantra is that basically, it's funny you bring up Butler because that was the example I would use, is that K pretends like his program is still Butler, and he thinks that he's like the underdog, and like you said, getting like the scrappy guys, like plucking the diamonds in the rough and finding a way for them to play for the name on the front of the jersey, and this is what it's all about. And for some reason, like America's all bought into that bullshit, and like people are just now, like I am just now for the first time starting to see people like think, wait a second, Duke is sort of the one and done school, aren't they? Like this is. Maybe Kentucky's not the one and done school. Maybe it is Duke after all. And like, they're just sort of figuring it out. And this makes me hate them more because it's like, if K and Duke and everybody involved and Duke fans and everything, if they just celebrated what they were, I don't think I would have a problem with them. If they were just like, yeah, maybe we play players, maybe we don't. We get a bunch of talented guys in here. We have a ton of fun. We send everybody to the NBA and we do it again. And we win national titles. Like, sorry you hate us so much. It is what it is. But that's not how they approach it. They approach it like we do it the right way. Like you see Duke fans talking about like academic requirements and like we have to get a specific player. Like K, even last year, I wrote an article, I think it was this past summer, about basically this very thing you and I are talking about is like Duke changing their recruiting strategy and how K is basically like sold his soul and he has gotten away from the Duke thing. And as I was researching that, you come across these quotes where K is like, we still go after the same guys we always have. And that kind of shit is just like mind blowing to me. How can you say that with a straight face? You clearly do not. But they pretend like they're trying to find the guys that have the academic requirements as well. Cause Duke is a prestigious school now and you have to get those kind of guys that fit the mold. And it's like, just cut all the bullshit and call it for what it is. And I wouldn't mind one bit. Like I hope Duke gets the 5 best players in every single recruiting class go to Duke and Kentucky from now until the end of time. And we do this every single year because it's so much fun. I love talking about it. It's just, I don't know, Tate. It blows my mind how the wool's been pulled over America's eyes and they just buy into whatever Coach K's selling. It's honestly impressive.
And what happened with K is, I mean, he panicked, right? When in 2009, Duke was nowhere to be found. They were freaking out. The one and done era was finally clicking in. They weren't quite getting the kids. I mean, at one point they had Nolan Smith, Greg Paulus, Brian Zubek, Kyle Singler, that whole squad getting together, and it wasn't working out. And North Carolina wins that title in 2009. K is a reactionary person, so that happens. He's going to up the ante. He's like, well, he went from talking really, I mean, you should see some of the old quotes from K on Calipari and the one and done system in general. I mean, he had some thoughts that I think if it were pulled back out, a lot of people would have some real problems with it. But he was basically like, I'm not changing the way I do what I do. This is the Duke basketball program. And honestly, the whole time I was on his side about the thing. I was like, at least, Duke and Carolina aren't going to get in the mud here, get in the glut of this whole situation and let it play out, because I thought the rule was going to change. And then he went completely 180. They won the 2010 title, which I think, I don't think he thought they were going to win that year, because he was already on the Kyrie trail and trying to get Harrison Barnes and trying to get into that world anyway. But they win that 2010 title, and then it just, from then on until today, it has been a complete flip of everything that they have done before that. And I mean, it is impressive. The 2015 title, you can't say anything bad about that team. That team was the perfect mix between senior leadership and young freshman talented players. That all worked out. But to get a guy like Zion Williamson, a guy that, I mean, if you went to someone in 1997, showed them a tape of Zion Williamson, and you said, that kid's going to go to Duke, they would look at you dumbfounded. They'd be like, "What happened? Did K retire 5 years ago? What is going on there? Who coaches that team? Is Terry Porter coaching that team? What is going on?"
It's funny you bring up the timeline about right around 2010, 2011 is when everything flipped, because, as you said, who was hired then? Who was brought to Durham then? It was your boy, Jeff Capel, who was fired, lest anyone forget, was fired from Oklahoma. The official story was because Oklahoma sucked that year, and I think the 2011 was his final year.
Yes.
That was the official story that was put forth to the media. The story that is obvious was Tiny Gallon was getting cash from a financial advisor, and the Oklahoma assistant coaches were orchestrating the entire thing. And on that scandal hits, he leaves Oklahoma in wake of recruiting violations. They're on 3 years probation. Lon Kruger inherits the program. I wouldn't say shambles. It wasn't like a complete disaster, but Capel, it was a direct recruiting violation. A player taking money. Jeff Capel was in charge of this. Gets fired. Goes to Duke. Duke starts landing one and done guys. I don't. This is just again. Maybe there's a scenario where none of these guys are paying players. I'm not here to say that I have 100% proof that Jeff Capel and Mike Krzyzewski are paying players. I'm not trying to break a story. What I'm trying to do is grab America by the lapels and shake them and say why do you do this with every other program but not Duke? I don't understand it. This drives me nuts that K has somehow buried the Lance Thomas thing. He's buried the Chris Duhon thing. He's buried the Corey Maggette thing. People are listening to this podcast right now and just heard me mention those three names, and they're like, wait, what is he talking about? Go Google it. These are things that exist. And this man is he's a mob boss, and he's figured out a way to just bury all of his bodies, all of his violations that happen. And it's I respect him so much. And this is why he's the greatest coach of all time, is because it just defies logic to me how he gets this done, Tate. So that's it. I'm more angry about this than you are, by the way, which is shocking.
I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. I can't believe that we've come to this. And my whole thing, my last, maybe not my last point, but my last thing I will say about this, the facade of the family atmosphere and the whole thing. I mean, Cal does it at Kentucky. K is now doing it with this whole Brotherhood thing. I mean, that's a Dean Smith thing day one. Dean Smith has been doing that the entire time. It was all about the Carolina family. It wasn't used as a marketing tool. It was just, that's what he said. I mean, when he passed away, he sent $200 to all his former players. I mean, that's just what he was all about. And now K has adopted that in some new modern weird way to call it the Brotherhood. But let me ask you about the Brotherhood, okay? So first off, Zion Williamson, what number does he wear? Okay, number 12. Who wears number 12 right now for Duke? Oh, Javin DeLaurier, a guy that doesn't play, a guy that was a 4-star recruit, a guy that has a lot of potential but's not going to get playing time and probably going to end up having to transfer. Okay, that makes sense. Let's talk about Jordan Tucker, a guy that went there last year when Duke lost out on Kevin Knox. They went down to Marietta, Georgia to Wheeler High School, a place where Jaylen Brown went, and said, hey, Jordan Tucker, we need a wing on our team to come in and help us in the freshman class. Guess what he's doing as of 12/31/2017? Transferring. Coach K right now is playing a game of, I'm going to bring in all these talent. It's like football almost. It's almost like what, Steve Spurrier was doing at South Carolina. It's like, I'm going to flood all these guys, bring in all these top talented players and sort of let them fight it out amongst each other, pick my favorites, and then the ones that don't get to buy into the Brotherhood, see you later. I mean, what happens to Chase Jeter? Is he still part of the Brotherhood? What happened to Elliott Williams? Was he a part of the Brotherhood? I don't know.
It's funny that Jordan Tucker transferred to Butler too. It's like he got to Duke. He's like, well, wait a second. This isn't the Duke that I thought I want to go to the real Duke. I want to go to the Duke I was sold on, which is Butler. And that's the, yeah, the whole Brotherhood thing is so funny to me too. Like you realize this is something at every single program in the country. Like every single program has a fraternity of former players that feel really tight to each other. And this is not a unique thing that Duke has. And I don't know. It's just all like, it's so weird to me. The branding of Duke. It's not that Duke, again, I don't begrudge Duke. I don't begrudge Coach K for setting all this up, for creating this brand that he has. I just don't understand why the college basketball fans who hate Duke only seem to hate Duke for like they hate him for almost the wrong reasons. It's like, hate him for the same reasons you hate Kentucky. And
exactly.
And I don't know.
They still hate him. They still hate him for the preconceived notion that they are the, try hard kids that come in and work hard and the private school kids and blah, blah, blah. And granted,
right.
Grayson Allen is like, I've said a lot of bad things about Grayson Allen, but I'm going to miss him, Like, I love watching Alex O'Connell play. I love watching these guys where if you put me in a time capsule in the mid-2000s or the early 2000s or the 90s and I saw one of those kids, I would say, oh my God, that is the most Duke basketball player I've ever seen. Even Delorier is a guy like that. I watch him play and it's just like hustle, back cuts, all this sort of stuff that Duke basketball players do. But instead, I'm watching Marvin Bagley look like the number one pick day one. It's just a totally different brand of basketball.
Are you saying Delorier, you're putting money on Delorier not wearing number 12 next year?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Interesting.
He's going to be at Davidson next year.
Yeah, they're going to just force him out altogether. Yeah. You're not. I don't know. It's
can we talk about the transitive property to Calipari and his response to all this?
Oh yes, we should. This is great too.
Kyle, I got a clip. Can we just play the clip of John Calipari?
We don't get every kid. I've said that all along. We get the ones that need to come here. Others choose not to, and that's fine. That's their choice. Obviously, the kids that have come here are worth over $1 billion.
So that was John Calipari, and he obviously goes out there. And the first line is my favorite line, Mark Titus. I want to get your genuine reaction on this. And he says, "I don't sell when you come here." And my response to that, of course, you buy. So that's easy. So,
I like it.
So we'll knock that
I like
one.
it. That's an easy joke.
Yeah, we'll knock that one out.
That's a good joke.
But I also did some research. So John Calipari says that he has players in the NBA that are worth $1 billion. So I took up all the Calipari players and I took up their earnings, their career earnings, and I added them all up. And I got to $496 million.
Little short.
So I guess if you add in what they got paid to go to Kentucky, then it all adds up to $1 billion.
Did you add in Drake?
Oh, I did not add in. I did not add in Drake.
Ashley
you're
Judd.
Correct. You're right.
Ashley Judd's career and earnings.
That's true. I did not add in. Ashley Judd is like a Tubby Smith era, so she doesn't get counted in. That was the thing. It was tough. I had like Jody Meeks, Rajon Rondo, and some of those guys. I did not count them in the Cal class of $1 billion players.
Don't count them.
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
Drake should count though. I think Drake is one of the best. And Drake is actually a player. Now remember, Drake wore the uniform and went and warmed up and shot the three and airballed it at the Big Blue Madness. Like Drake, I think Drake counts as a Kentucky player. So, yeah, Cal is definitely shook by this, and it's awesome theater. It's again like this goes back to the point I was trying to say and trying to defend myself that like I'm not jealous of Duke. I'm not like upset. I actually enjoy this. I truthfully want this to happen because Cal and Coach K fighting each other, trying to win at the same game is absolutely hilarious. Cal is so shook. His team is terrible. Mm-hmm. They might not make the tournament. I said that like a week ago, half jokingly. I'm like 55% joke or 45% joking. I mean, now like I'm slowly getting closer to like I don't think I'm joking anymore. Kentucky does not look like an NCAA tournament team.
First time they haven't been ranked since March 2014. 20
right, but I guess. If you're a Kentucky fan, you're thinking, yeah, that was the year we went to the national championship. So we might be all right. He's so shook by the pain of the players. He's recruiting. Like I haven't heard Kentucky. Does Kentucky even have any recruits for next year? I guess they might not need them because all these guys are coming back because they're not that great. I don't know. But Cal is pretty obviously shook, and it makes for fantastic theater because again, need I remind everybody that. We're going to talk, everyone, the casual fan, the person that doesn't follow college basketball closely would be convinced, like Bill Simmons, for example, I'm going to throw him out there because I'm not making fun of him. I'm just saying I know that he casually watches college basketball. if you talk to him, like he's convinced that like Duke and Kentucky are like the two best programs in the country. And I guess in a certain measure they are, but Villanova is pretty clearly the best program in the country the last 5 years, right?
Up there with, I think there's like 5. Like I think Michigan State's in the conversation. I think North Carolina's in the conversation. Kansas is in the conversation.
The point being, UConn has won more national titles since K started playing the one and done game.
Exactly.
UConn won in 11 and 14.
Yes.
It's like the point being, this is not a situation where it's like football and you got Ohio State, Clemson, and Alabama, and it's just those three every single year.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that one of those three is probably going to win the national championship. And it's like, God, can we get some more variety in here? Like, that's not what's going on in college basketball. So honestly, I don't care at all. It makes for more fun. And it's amazing how Cal is so shook by this. It's like Cal and K are playing a completely different game. They're not even trying to win national titles. I'm convinced of that with Cal. Like, I think Cal looks at his career earnings of his guys, and he's like, I'm the most successful coach in college basketball today, and it's because my guys make more money than everyone else.
I mean, people forget when John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, that big draft class, when they all came out, this is before he won his title in 2012 to Anthony Davis, John Calipari said this was better than a national title when they all got drafted.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and listen,
which is
you
honesty.
Could argue that
I like that.
Yeah, you could argue that he's right, but that's the thing is like Cal is honest. K is not honest. K is not honest about his approach to this at all. Cal will tell you what he's thinking, and you can honestly, he kind of has a case. Like you bring these guys in, I mean, it's an antiquated idea that you should be providing an education for these guys who are pretty clearly going to make hundreds of millions of dollars in their NBA career. Like you could throw that out the window. National titles are basically for the fans. And I guess it'd be nice if you cared about the fans, but like, I don't know, like obviously it would be nice to win a national title, but at the end of the day, I think every coach, people get into coaching because they care about relationships with their players. And if that's what your motivation is, then what's the greatest thing you can do in your relationship for a player is help them in their career and help them make a ton of money. So there's like a case that could be made that Cal is not wrong. It's just, it's so wild that they're playing two completely different games. Like Jay Wright is trying to win the national title this year.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Bennett is trying to win the national title. John Calipari is trying to get the best recruits and make his guys millionaires. And Kay is doing the same thing. And it's like, we have so many different motivations. It makes college basketball great, Tate. That's just what I'm going to say.
It really reminds me of like the East Coast, West Coast rap rivalry back in the day. It's like Coach K is Suge Knight. You know, he's just behind the scenes. He's just this ominous threat, and he has like Tupac, Snoop Dogg, all these talented people around him. And then you got Calipari, who's like Diddy, who's like all up in the video, everywhere, around, making his face known, just letting everybody know what's going on with his players and everybody. And at the same time, you're just like, I don't know what side I stand on, but I know both sides probably aren't doing the best things right now. You know, there needs to be some sort of, there needs to be a middle ground. There needs to be some other outlet. And I guess when you have schools like Villanova, you know, that is the answer, but it's just not as sexy of a pick. I mean, no one's going to randomly walk up to you and say, man, did you see Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges last night? What a game by those two guys. I mean, no one even knows how to do that. All they want to talk about is Zion Williamson or, you know, Kevin Knox or whoever it is. I mean, Emmanuel Quickley is the guy that's coming in for Cal next year. He's like a 5-star point guard. So that's like the biggest name they have coming in, but no one even knows that guy's name. You know, everyone knows Barrett, Reddish, and Williamson, and they're all going to Duke.
Never heard of him. Well, you got anything else? We talked about Duke for a lot. I mean, people, I don't know. Like this is actually we get a ton of shit for ripping on Duke and talking about Duke all the time, and it's deserved. It's totally deserved. But this feels like a worth kind of a half-hour discussion. I thought
it feels like a watershed moment for, you know, where you stand on the situation. I mean, this was completely out of the blue. I don't think I put it in enough context for how. I mean, there was nobody calling for Duke to get Zion Williamson. Nobody. And
I said it. Tate, I literally said to you on the podcast, I think he's going to Duke just to troll you, just to like, because that's what I enjoy doing is just saying things to make you upset. And then you said it can't happen, it won't happen, or whatever it is you said.
Oh, it still hurts.
Yeah,
it still hurts.
Yeah, but again, like I'm for Duke. I hope Duke fans calm down. Duke fans aren't listening anymore. If there's no way they've made it this far into the pod, they slammed this shit off. But
I had some real like true blood Duke people that are quote unquote my friends. I wouldn't call them my friends, but I reached out to them when the Zion thing happened, and they were even not only were they shocked by it, they were just like, I can't believe this is where K is going to end his career. So that lets you know, like the true blue Duke fans are just confused by the whole thing,
right? And that's where I'm coming from. My sense of anger, if you hear it in my voice, is coming from that. Not like, oh man, Duke is better than my program and I'm jealous. Although that's probably true too. There's probably a hint of that. But most of it's just like, why is America treating Duke to a different standard? Like, can we please make jokes about Coach K? When someone mentions Coach K, can you please say he pays his players? That's all I want to see. I want to see just anonymous people on Twitter accusing K of paying players. That's all I really want. And number two, I want to just call out Duke for their bullshit. Their hypocritical brand. They have this brand and they have the reality and it doesn't mesh. But anyway, we can move on to something else. We got to finish our segment. That was Tate's bad guy.
Yeah, that was one bad guy. And now let's go to your bad guy, Mark Titus.
I don't think we need to spend a half an hour talking about this, but we do finally. We should play I guess we still have the Michael Porter mystery. I was going to say we should play the music one more time just to rest in peace to the Billy Preston mystery. But we still have the Michael Porter mystery, so we can use the music still, but the Scooby-Doo music. But my bad guy is the entire country of Bosnia. Billy has stepped in, dropped the bag for Billy Preston. Our Kansas, we've talked about him all year. The story has now been closed. The final chapter has been written on Billy Preston's saga at Kansas, unless I guess an investigation, but there's probably going to be no investigation. We're just going to move on from it all. A team called BC Igokia signed Billy Preston in Bosnia. And that's it. That's pretty much it. So the kid, to recap his story, he sits out the first, one game for like breaking team rules, something like that.
Yep. Missing
curfew. I don't even remember what it was.
He played in the exhibition games early in the season, then sat out the first game, and then we never saw him again, really.
Yeah, and then gets in a car wreck, a single car wreck. He was totally fine, wasn't injured, so it probably wasn't that bad, but there was damage to the car, and then an investigation launches, and he sits out, and no one has any idea why, and it's just that might be like one of the big, that could go down as like a big what if, and I mean, Kansas fans, when Kansas loses in the second round because they go like 6 for 28 from 3-point line, it's definitely going to be a big what if for them. But I just think about like this kid's life. Like what I really hope he makes it in the NBA. I hope he like has like a successful career, because to think that like one little car, like fender bender, I still don't know the details of the crash, but in my head, it's just like he hit a fire hydrant or something, or I don't know. To think that forever altered the course of his life is just, it's crazy to me. And I guess you could argue that that's not what altered the course. What altered it was him picking up bags and et cetera, et cetera. But I don't know. Just if he doesn't get in that wreck, he's playing for Kansas.
Yeah.
And Kansas, I probably take him then seriously as a national title contender.
Yeah, I was going to say, but I mean, we're once again in a position where Bill Self does not have a big man that can actually take Kansas to the national title. And that's been the case since like Darrell Arthur and Cole Aldridge and all those guys were there. I mean, they just haven't been able to figure out the formula since, you literally just named the guys that won a national title for him. I know, but I mean, I'm just saying like that was the like.
Oh, you're saying since then. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Since
I thought you were saying
you got to think about like, I mean, Embiid gets hurt. Like I feel like Czech Diallo didn't work out. Like every single year they have these guys that are pinned to be, okay, we've got the post presence we need to win a title, because they've had the guards the entire time.
Cliff Alexander was the big one.
Yeah, and every single time
Cliff Alexander.
It hasn't worked out. So I feel bad for Self.
Anyway,
yeah, bad guy.
Yeah, and then that's my bad guy is Bosnia. We got to get our boy Jeff Goodman to. He should have just stayed in Lithuania. I know Lithuania is not close to Bosnia. They're both Eastern European countries, but like I think Lithuania, if my geography is not going to fail me here, I think Lithuania is northeastern European, and Bosnia is like south by like Croatia, I want to say.
Yeah, I've actually been to Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's a very beautiful country, so I'm excited for Billy Preston.
Wait, what?
Yes.
You've been to Bosnia? No kidding?
Yes.
Can you give us the rundown on the league he's going to be in? Should the Ringer send you over there for a week? Should we wait till like Super Bowl week or something, like some big week where we have like so many better uses for you, and we send you to Bosnia to cover?
Yes,
one player.
I am absolutely happy to go back. I will say, I did not stay in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I stayed in, I drove from Split, Croatia to Dubrovnik, Croatia on a bus, but the bus stopped in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I got outside, I got a water, I walked around. It was a beautiful country. So congrats to Billy Preston.
Nice.
I think it was a good point.
Good.
The Adriatic Sea is beautiful. He's going to have a great time.
Well, good for him. Yeah, Billy Preston, we're done ragging on you. Your mom got what she wants, where everyone just shut up and leave him alone. I didn't see I'm off Twitter. I'm taking a 3-week hiatus from Twitter for reasons that aren't worth getting into. But So I didn't see like the Kansas fans' reactions to this. Were they like, thank God it's over? Were they like, screw that kid, get him out of here? Did you get a sense of this, Tate?
It was more disappointment, I think, that they lost another
Just like a
5-star big
bummer?
man. Yeah, exactly. There was no, there was no malice to it. There was no
good.
blaming the kid. It was more of just sad that it didn't work out and upset that it dragged on this long. So feel bad for Bill Self.
When in doubt, just point your anger towards the NCAA.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing that you can always do. Just hate the shadowy figures at the NCAA and blame it on them. Honorable mention, bad guy, Steve Alford landed Moses Brown, 5-star center. I don't know how good he is, but I did see some reactions from this on I forget where I saw it. Somewhere on the internet. I saw UCLA fans were like actually kind of surprised to get him. I don't know how good this kid is. I don't know, whatever. But Steve Alford stepping in, landing a big guy. Should be good enough. I think this commitment's good enough to give him a 5-year extension, Tate. I think UCLA should lock it up.
5-year, 5-star. It makes sense. It kind of reminded me when Tony Parker. You remember when Tony Parker, not the Spurs point guard, but Tony Parker, the center at UCLA, who never lost the weight. But when he committed to UCLA, everyone was freaking out. They're like, finally, the big man's back at UCLA.
Wait,
paying homage to Lou Alcindor. We don't know if it's going to
That was different than that. Wasn't the guy that went to Georgetown that transferred, right?
No,
that was Josh Smith. Was it Josh Smith?
Yeah.
Was that his name? Was he at UCLA?
He was at UCLA and then he transferred out. Yes, there were two big guys.
So yeah, they had two. They had two like
Smith.
super fat guys. That's right. Yeah, and they all blend together for me.
And Tony Parker came in and took his role as the fat guy on the team.
That's right. Yeah. They always need one fat guy. Every UCLA. Maybe that's what's wrong with UCLA right now. They don't have a fat guy. They need a fat guy. They should bring Reeves Nelson back and put him on staff.
Yes.
Everybody loved that guy too.
Yes. And the Chick-fil-A is just too close to Pauley Pavilion, so I don't blame him for staying fat.
Yeah. There you go. All right, how about good guy? Do you have a good guy of the week?
Yeah, good guy of the week, and this is sort of a sad one because we did believe in Notre Dame after the Maui Invitational, and they've been on a tough run, and that is our boy Mike Bray, a guy that's keeping up the tradition of taking less than talented guys and making them great. A true Duke basketball coach, Mike Bray. They've lost to Georgia Tech, UNC, Louisville, Clemson, 4 in a row. The good news is Bonzi is apparently on the exercise bike. They're trying to get him back. He's still going to be 8 weeks. My question to you is, have you watched Matty Ice, a.k.a. Matty Nice, a.k.a. Matt Farrell?
No.
He's been struggling.
This is the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the problem. I mentioned this briefly on the pod we did not too long ago. Notre Dame has not existed to me, like basically since they lost to Ball State at home. At that point, I was like, okay, so they kind of suck because you and I, they won Maui. You and I both said this is the Maui bump. They went all the way up to 5th, I want to say.
Yeah,
they were ranked 5th in the country. We're like, that's way too high. And then they lose to Ball State, and I was like, yeah, this is the Maui bump. This was too high. They're going to slide back down. And I said, I'm going to give them time to figure it out. I'll check back in January. And I have not checked back in, Tate. Like, Notre Dame has done nothing to pop back on my radar, and it's kind of sad that I didn't even think about Notre Dame until you said Mike Bray, and then I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. Notre Dame does exist, and they are a fun part of my life every year, and maybe that's what's missing from this college basketball
It feels
season.
like Mike Bray's T-shirt wearing in Maui was at least 2 years ago, and that's the sad part about this whole state of affairs. Matt Farrell in the Louisville game was a double overtime loss, a heartbreaking loss, but he had 2 or 3 times where he could have won the game on open shots, and Matty Ice would have hit those shots, but Matty Nice is not hitting those shots. He really struggled.
Ooh, I like what you did there.
Yeah, he's struggling, and then they lost to Clemson, and he shot 2 of 11 from the field. He just looks still hurt. I think he had like an ankle injury or something that was holding him out. It just makes me sad because this whole year we were so excited for the Bonzi and Matt Farrell pick and roll action all year, and we haven't gotten our due. Mike Bray said he wants Bonzi to come back for the ACC tournament so they can get back to Maui status, is what he said. So I'm hoping that Notre Dame can make like a run in the ACC tournament. That's best case scenario for this team.
Maui status as in needing a
vacation
comeback, needing a comeback to beat a vastly overrated Wichita State team in the second half, and some soft Maui rims and a lot of help to even beat a team that is probably not even going to make the Sweet 16 this year. That's what he means by coming back to my. So if Farrell and Colson end up on our 3-on-3 team that you and I, we haven't talked about that in a while. You and I need to sit down off the air and kind of like hash out some 3-on-3 stuff. But we're on the committee, the selection committee for the 3-on-3 tournament that's going on at the Final Four, and we said that when at the start of the year we felt like Colson and Farrell were locks to be on the ACC team. If they both can get healthy and we put them on the team, because I don't know what the whole situation is. It might be like you might throw like Joel Berry in there, but the ACC I'm sure has a ton of great seniors that I just can't think of right now. if they win the 3-on-3 tournament and they win Maui and they don't make the NCAA tournament and they suck the rest of the year, is that a successful season for them? Is that a good way to go out? If you win Maui and you win the inaugural 3-on-3 tournament, I think that's a pretty good year. That's a year you could be proud of.
Because for a team
Notre
that
Dame,
was promising a Final Four, I don't think that's the.
They weren't promising a Final Four. Listen, Notre Dame coming into the year, they had 2.5 players. They had Colson and Farrell, and I'll give you half of Pfluger. And outside of that, like, nobody around the country is scared of any of those other guys. No one cares about any of those other guys. I'm sure some of them are pretty decent players, but like, that was what it was. There were 2, and now Colson's out for however long it's going to be, 8 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, 8 weeks.
You're saying Farrell's got a bum ankle or something. Like, of course they're not. Like, it is what it is. It's just, I mean, you're limited. You're the 2 players you do have get hurt. If you can salvage a Maui win and a 3-on-3 win where Tate and Titus are there,
yes,
handing you the trophy,
yes,
shaking your hand, interviewing you after you win, I mean, that's a victory, Tate.
That's better than Jim Nantz, I'll tell you that. What about your good guy? Is it a coach that possibly lost to Mike Bray at some point this year?
Yep, see it. The little segue. We were talking about Maui. Greg Marshall. You're gonna enjoy this. The Wichita State has now lost 2 in a row. I'm not really going to get into it too much. Like, I felt like Wichita State they definitely should be better than this. They brought back like their team. They won 30 games last year. They were what were they, a 10 seed last year in the tournament?
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound right?
Yep.
I think they were a 10 seed. Yeah. And they won 30 games and everyone was like, man, Wichita State is misseeded. This is a travesty. And then they brought back everybody. They were supposed to be really good. They were ranked, I want to say like 9th, top 10 at least, in the preseason. They're just not that good, and that's okay. They're a good basketball team. They're not a very good basketball team. We said it at the beginning after the Maui, our takeaway from Maui, at least mine was that if we're talking about the Duke brand, I feel like Wichita State is not on brand at all right now. They're not the play angry Wichita State. Their defense is actually kind of bad. Shamet he's really not assertive, and that's the real head scratcher to me, is that he's not really doing much of anything, and he's not really upset by that. It's not like he's playing poorly. It's like he's just not really playing at all. So yeah, Greg Marshall. They've lost 2 in a row now in the new conference. They have Marcus McDuffles back, by the way. your guy Marcus McDuffles.
McDuffle bags.
That was the big thing. Was like we were talking like, well, to be fair, they don't have Marcus McDuffie back yet. When he comes back, they're going to be a completely different team. Marcus McDuffles has been back for about a month now, Tate. He's averaging like 8 points and 4 rebounds a game. So he's not really the difference. I mean, this isn't a guy that was, so they're kind of running out of excuses. I know they are in a harder conference, but they haven't even got to the part of the conference that's supposed to be like that hard yet.
But this is this is the perfect example of, they bumped themselves up to play in a tough conference. They got used to being able to run through their conference and prime themselves for the tournament, and now they're having to deal with it. So that's the situation we're at.
Shout out to all the idiots on Twitter and ESPN comment sections and all that are like, this team would suck if they had to play real teams. Like when Wichita State went undefeated, and they're like, this team would finish 13th in the ACC. I want to give a shout out to those people, because this year they're kind of proving your point. Maybe you're right. Maybe you were right all along. Maybe if Gonzaga had to play in the Pac-12, wouldn't even make the tournament every year. Maybe there's something to that, Tate. Anyway,
the Gonzaga fans are very upset about that. I will take a step back and say, Gonzaga, good for you guys. You guys are great. Go West Coast Conference. Do we need Kyle Guy, or should we just go straight to shout outs?
We can just go straight to shout-outs, I think. I mean, Kyle Guy, the only thing I had on Kyle Guy was that I just saw an interview Tony Bennett did after they beat Wake Forest that basically Tony Bennett got asked about if Kyle Guy was going to break his record, because apparently Kyle Guy has like he now has the Virginia all-time career 3-point percentage record or something. And I didn't realize this. Tony Bennett is the NCAA leader. He has the NCAA career record at 49.7% Tate from the 3-point line.
That is so absurd.
Tony Bennett shot 53.3% from the 3-point line as a junior, and he took like 5 threes a game, and he did it. And anyway, Kyle Guy he's not actually going to break it, but he's close. And Tony Bennett was asked about it, and Tony Bennett, being the humble handsome man that he is, just said like, yeah, I would love that. He goes, I want someone to break it, but I want it to be one of my guys that I recruit. So anyway, that was the only thing I saw.
Kyle Guy, one of the good guys. Let's do some shout outs. First up, shout out to Buzz Williams and Virginia Tech last night. Beat North Carolina. Buzz Williams is the only coach I've ever seen do a full halftime, take off the suit, come back in a t-shirt. At one point, Buzz Williams ran into the middle of the court in live action because he thought it was a media timeout. Got no technical because he was so giddy about how good they were playing on defense that the refs just let it go. Unbelievable effort by Buzz Williams. He was basically the sixth defender all night, and Virginia Tech with a big win over North Carolina.
Have you just resigned yourself to the fact that it's just not happening with Carolina this year?
Oh my God, they're ranked number 10 in the country. They're totally fine. The problem that that they're going to have is that Joel Berry and Jalik Felton. There looks to be a little bit of a rift there, but that's something to keep your eye on because Jalik's going to have to play more. Joel Berry still can't get a shot. And the best thing about Joel Berry is the apologizing that every single media person does when he does struggle in games. No one says anything bad about the guy. I love Joel Berry. He's a great point guard. He's a great Carolina point guard, but he is really, really struggling this season.
He's a good guy.
He's a good guy,
Joel Berry.
That's for sure.
He's a great guy. So yeah, Carolina is. I feel like the ceiling Sweet 16. Do you think it's better than that?
Well,
Do you think they have a higher ceiling than that?
I think ACC tournament run where you get into the championship game and a Sweet 16 Elite 8 is a pretty good season for this team when you're depending on Luke May to be your best player. So I don't think you can argue with that.
The Luke May slander continues. You hate that man.
No, I love him.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's tough. Luke May would be a great Duke basketball player in the mid-2000s, that's for sure.
Shout out to the Buzz. Did you see the video of him in the locker room after they won?
Of course.
The mosh pit?
Of course.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. But Buzz seems like a fun guy to play for. I don't know.
I think Buzz Williams is when he has a buzzed haircut, and I'm going to call this new version of Buzz Spike Williams with the spiked hair. So good job, like Spike Williams.
I want to give a shout out to Buzz, too, by the way, I don't know if it's paid off quite yet, but for leaving Marquette, and I know there's like more to the story. He probably hated the administration and all that kind of stuff. But when it happened, he left Marquette to go to Virginia Tech, and everyone was like, what? Why? Why would you leave Marquette for Virginia Tech? And I don't know if it necessarily has played out for him. I don't know if it's proved to be like a great decision quite yet. Like, it's not like Virginia Tech has built something yet. They seem to just still be the team that just upsets other teams and doesn't actually win a ton of games yet. But I don't know. He seems to be having fun. He's pulling out some big wins, growing out his hair. People seem to love him down there. So I don't know. Shout out to him for that.
Yep. Shout out to Blacksburg. Next up,
I want to shout out TCU for beating West Virginia at home. I think this is like their first top 10 win in like 5 years, which begs a question or brings up the point of like TCU had a top 10 win 5 years ago. Wait, what?
Wait, what? Did that happen?
But this was a program win, Tate. I just wanted to. It wasn't this acute game. It wasn't just this specific game. It was more that when you and I did the Sleeping Giants pod with Simmons, we briefly touched on how we feel like SMU and TCU is going to be the rivalry to keep an eye on for the next like 20 years. That 20 years from now, SMU TCU might be something in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Yes.
So. TCU getting a huge win is a step in that direction where like TCU, Jamie Dixon gets something cooking there. And they finally did it. They've had a lot of close calls. They are actually one of the better teams in the Big 12, but they keep losing to all the better teams. Like they lose by like 3 or 4 points in all these Big 12 games. So it was cool to see them finally blow out a good team. So anyway.
And shout out to Ryan Switzer for being there for West Virginia fans behind the bench. That was a tough loss for him. Xavier and Cincinnati, 2 teams that we always think are ranked between 17 and 20, up to number 8 in the coaches poll. So congrats to them for tying each other right where they belong.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. They're pretty funny. They just for 1 week, if you're a coaches poll fan, you can't argue about Xavier Cincinnati. Like Xavier Cincinnati fans are just shaking hands saying like, yeah, we're about as good as each other this week. Yeah. Even though Xavier beat the shit out of Cincinnati this year. But yeah, that was pretty funny that they're tied. I want to give a shout out to Rhode Island. The forgotten Hurley brother, Dan Hurley, is now ranked. He's won 10 in a row. Rhode Island, their only losses, I forget. I wish I had their schedule pulled up. I think they've only lost to like really good teams. They've only lost 3 games, and the 3 teams they lost to were like all very, very good. So the question, Arizona State's sliding Tate, Rhode Island's on the come up. Who's the best Hurley brother? Are we going to see them play each other in the tournament?
Let's be honest.
That'd be great.
It's always been Dan Hurley the whole time.
Wouldn't it be awesome if they really did play each other and they were playing at the same site as Duke or something, and like you show Coach K in the stands, and then you do the whole thing where you pretend like Bobby Hurley's a K guy, and I don't know. I don't know what I'm thinking here, but
I think it would be good. I think it'd be good for drama. I mean, their losses are Virginia and Alabama are their two big losses. So those are two tournament teams. So that's not a bad resume for your boy Dan Hurley. Next up, we got Kim Palm's top 5 are in the top 6 of the AP poll. So the AP poll is now becoming just the Kim Palm poll. Villanova, Virginia, Purdue, Duke, Michigan State. They're basically the same thing now. So congratulations to Kim Palm for figuring out the algorithm.
Yeah, well, what's happening is the AP voters, remember we talked about this last week where Gary Parrish does his poll attacks thing and people get scared and they don't know what to do. So they're all just gravitating towards Kim Palm and voting for Kim Palm. Kim Palm and the AP matched on 8 of the top 10 this week. Yeah, we're reaching a poll singularity where like Kim Palm's computers are just taking over the world, and we're at a point where we don't even need to play these games anymore. Just have Kim Palm type in the algorithm, hit play or whatever it is when you program something, and see what happens. And that's our winner. So, I had a couple more shout outs. Tate. Lamar, not the man. I'm not talking about a man named Lamar. I'm not talking about Lamar Odom. I'm talking about a school called Lamar. Played against Sam Houston State. Again, not the man Sam Houston, the school Sam Houston. It's confusing, I know. somewhere in this country, a man named Sam Houston was playing Lamar, and it wasn't the school. They were just playing on the pickup.
It was a 1-on-1. It was a good game.
But I'm talking about the college basketball game. Lamar scored 17 points in the first half. They were down 32-17. So Sam Houston gave them the Tony, the phrase I coined last week, where you hold a team under 20,
or the Zaglinski. So depending on your UVA allegiance.
So Lamar scores 17. They're down 32-17 at halftime. They then go out and score 51 in the second half to send the game to overtime, and then they scored 16 in overtime. So I don't even know who the coach of Lamar is. It used to be Pat Knight, Bob Knight's son.
Mm-hmm.
He was fired, but shout out to the Lamar coach for that halftime pep talk. You scored 17 points at halftime, and then you go out and score 51 in the second half, and then 16 in overtime to get the win. So I want to give him a shout out. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's pretty much
anything
it.
else?
I will say Tick Price is the coach of Lamar. I did not know that. His daughter, Chanel Iman, is a famous model. So way to go, Tick Price. And that's the ticket price for that one.
You just Wikipedia that?
I just looked that up. That's pretty impressive, Tick Price.
Tick Price. His daughter's a model?
Yeah, Chanel Iman that used to date ASAP Rocky. That's a random.
Wait, what?
Wait, what? Yeah, very, very in the weeds
ASAP
there.
Rockies. Oh my God. Yeah. All right, we'll wrap this up, Tate. Games to watch this week. We're doing another show Friday, so the games to really watch this week are this weekend. But between now and our next pod, pretty much Michigan at Purdue. That seems to be the only game that's worth watching. Do you have any others? Michigan at Purdue on Thursday. Otherwise, I think most of the games are the good games are this weekend. We got Virginia, Duke, all that kind of stuff, which we'll preview that next pod. But otherwise, I think just Michigan at Purdue. You got anything else?
No, that's it. I just want to say this to Zion. One day you'll understand, Zion. One day you will understand, and we'll miss you. We'll all miss you.
God bless Zion. God bless Zion Williamson. We said a lot of mean things about you and your program, your new program. One more shout out Chris Holtman, still undefeated in Big Ten play. Tate.
Mm-hmm.
Need to squeeze that in there. Will he ever lose a Big Ten game? Nobody knows. It's hard to say, but that's pretty much it. Wrapping it up.
That's it. We're wrapping it up. This has been another edition of One Shining Podcast. Mark Titus, save the crew, right?
Save the crew.
Thanks again to Hotel Tonight. Again, I can't tell you how much I have been loving Hotel Tonight. Hotel Tonight helps you book amazing deals at great hotels, and even though the name's Hotel Tonight, you can actually book up to 100 days in advance in top destinations and up to a week in advance everywhere else. They work with cool, top-rated hotels and don't feature those long, endless lists of options you have to scroll through. Instead, they show you a select list of the best deals at the best hotels at any given time. So start scoring amazing deals at incredible hotels. Download the Hotel Tonight app now.